Guys, I want to show you something really neat that we found the other day at Master Naturalist class. Now, we've all seen horseshoe crabs, right? And so here's actually it looks like it's a molt of a horseshoe crab. And they're pretty amazing. Well, first of all, they're not crabs at all. They're really chelicerates, so they're more closely related to spiders. And just a couple features on them. They have eye spots here so that they can sense light and not really see very well, but certainly sense light. This is the telson. And that telson is really good for helping the animal to flip back over. They use it like a lever, and it allows them to flip their shell back over if they get turned over by a wave or something like that. By the way, never hold them by this. Pick them up by the body. They won't hurt you at all because you don't want to tax this muscle right here too much. But anyway, so, you know, this is one that's just half grown or a little less, but we all know how big they get. They get enormous, and females are much bigger than males and get as big as a basketball or bigger. But what you don't often see is little guys, and that's what I was so excited about. And so here are some little horseshoe crabs, and one of the first things you notice is the spines. Boy, they have very impressive spines at this size, which totally makes sense because when they're bigger, there are very few things that can hurt them besides dolphins and sea turtles and things like that. But when they're little, gulls can get them and all kinds of other wading birds and things like that. So they have to be better protected for sure. Fish should be less likely to grab them because of these spines as well. Now, it takes them about 10 years to reach adult size. It depends on how quickly they molt and food and temperature and things like that, but about 10 years. So this one, I would guess, is only a year old or so. There's one in here that's even smaller. And look at that little guy. I've seen him, this big before. So that's the smallest I've ever seen, but obviously they start a lot smaller than that. Now, these are particularly important in our area because they lay lots and lots of eggs, and those eggs are fed upon by several shorebird species that depend on them for their survival. So those eggs are like rocket fuel. So the birds can land, feed on as many eggs as they possibly can, and then continue their migration route. So it's really, really important that we have horseshoe crabs and that they lay those eggs. Now, these animals are still collected for the biomedical industry. And what happens is they're collected, they're bled, and their blood is used to help make basically a test for the presence of gram-negative bacteria, which causes awful infection. So anything that goes into the human body needs to be tested first. And right now, there's still an awful lot of these being collected, bled, and that serum being used for the industry. There are some synthetic alternatives available, so hopefully, eventually, we won't have to collect so many horseshoe crabs. But anyway, important animal ecologically and also in the medical industry, but also really, really neat. And boy, it's fun seeing this size.